Hello, in this video we're going to take a look at another very commonly used bass, the Reese Bass. Reese Bass gets its name from Kevin Saunderson's side project Reese, specifically the track Just Want Another Chance. It's big, dark, wobbly, and lovely, and now you can hear it in tons of different tunes. It's another one that's worth knowing how to put together so you can bend and manipulate it to your will. So let's see how a Reese Bass sounds on a Matriarch. Let's take this thing apart and start from scratch. At its core, a Reese Bass is big, so we're going to need all our oscillators and some LFOs for subs. The lovely wobbles come from detuned oscillators and pitch modulation. So let's start with the oscillators. All oscillators are saws and set at the same octave. I'll bring them up to around 12 o'clock in the mixer, just at the point of saturation, well, slightly over it. Now, time to detune. Just want a little more beating than normal. It helps make the bass sound bigger, but if you go too far, it's not going to sound great. Okay, onto the filter. To help with size, we'll mess with the stereo image a bit by playing with the spacing. We can do the same thing with the VCA. Switch into split mode and set the envelopes so they're just slightly different. Next, let's get a sub-oscillator going. We'll use a sine LFO for this. Sines are great as subs. Nice, warm, and big. Patch the keyboard CV out from the back of the Matriarch and into the rate in on the mod bus. Wave out to the noise input on the mixer. Got to turn down the other oscillators so we can tune it. Going for an octave below our other oscillators. Tuning this is no fun, but it'll be worth it. Bring the other oscillators back up. Wow, listen to that dirty loveliness. Next step, add some pitch warble. So let's set up some modulation. I'm going to use the triangle LFO for this, patching out to an attenuator to control the amount of modulation, then into a mult. This triangle LFO is going to do a lot of lifting, so we'll need a lot of copies. Out of the mult, I'm going to patch into the linear FM input of oscillators 2 through 4. I'm using FM instead of pitch modulation because, well, I guess the main reason is I prefer it. Pitch modulation gives it a vibrato type sound, whereas with FM you get a bit of that, but also some added inharmonicity. I'll turn it up high first so you can hear what it's doing, and then bring it down to a suitable level. Really like the sound of the aggressive FM on the higher notes. So let's use keyboard tracking to control the rate of the FM modulation. Remove the keyboard tracking from the rate in on the mod bay and patch to a mult. Patch from the mult back to rate in. Okay, that's still working. Patch out of the mult to rate in on the utility LFO. Now the higher I play on the keyboard, the faster the modulation. Cool, but I think the sub is adding too much rumble in the low end. Let's tune that up an octave. Yeah, that's better. Now listen to how it sounds in different octaves. Love that detuned sub as I play higher. That's of course because the LFO is not accurately key tracking, but it really adds some character to the sound, gives it added tension to those higher notes. So in this case, I'm happy it's not key tracking that well. Okay, that's the basic patch. Oh, no it's not. We have to add some chorus. Like some of the patches I've talked about from the last few weeks, we could just use a chorus pedal, but let's mess around with the Matriarch's delay to get some chorusy type modulation happening. That actually sounds pretty good, and in a lot of cases I'd just leave it like that, but I want more warble, so I'm going to modulate the delay time with this LFO. If we offset the spacing, we'll get a broader stereo image. Alright, things are coming together, but I want to have more control over the rate and amount of warble, especially on the higher notes. I really want them to shake. Not enough shake. So I'm going to take CV for Aftertouch from the back of the Matriarch and replace the key tracking from the rate in on the LFO. So as I push harder on the keys, the rate will increase. But the level of modulation is too much, so we got to attenuate that. So just plugging that obviously into attenuator, and out of the attenuator, we'll go back into rate in on the LFO. That is, of course, once I find a cable that's long enough. Okay, let's hear it. Oh, that's making a big difference, and not in a good way. The triangle LFO is modulating the delay time as well as the frequency modulation for two oscillators. So if we make drastic changes to the rate of the LFO with Aftertouch, we're really messing with a lot. So we need to do some fine tuning. I'll start with the amount of Aftertouch modulating the rate. Don't have an available attenuator to limit the delay modulation, but can do that by speeding up the delay time. If it's already at the top of its range, it can't get any faster, just slower. Nice cheater way to limit the modulation. Better, but still not there. I think I need to add a little bit more Aftertouch and bring down the speed of the LFO. There we go. Yeah, that's good, but you know what? Now I'm really missing that key tracking modulation we had before. But I want to keep the Aftertouch. And both mults are in use already, so I can't use one of them as a unity mixer. So I'm going to have to use an external passive mixer instead. So I'm going to take the outputs of both of these attenuators and plug that into the rate input of the triangle LFO, and patch key tracking into the input on this bottom attenuator here. So I've got key tracking affecting the rate and Aftertouch. Cool. Maybe a bit more Aftertouch. That's better. Okay, that's it. We got ourselves a Reese Bass. Thanks for watching.